This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
We are ecstatic to welcome Julie Schejbal joining us here. She's an estate attorney at the law offices of Julie A. Schejbal. That's her. Excited to have her here, hailing from beautiful Dunkirk, Maryland, correct?
Absolutely. You got that correct.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Pleasure to have you here. And we're going to discuss the full service real estate planning law firm that she has, how she's helping clients, and all that she does. But first and foremost, I want to just say hello and get to know you on a personal level. Julie, how are you?
I am terrific today. Thank you very much. It's a beautiful day in Dunkirk. Sun's out. It's about 75 degrees. It's perfect.
God bless. Amazing. Well,
Yeah.
before we dive into real estate planning, what it is and how
Actually, Jill, it's
people,
estate planning, not real
I'm sorry,
estate.
I'm
So
sorry, estate planning.
you're good.
So sorry. Before we dive
No,
into estate planning, we're talking wills, we're talking trusts. How did you get into this? I want to find out a little bit of your background first, if you don't mind.
no worries. So when I went to law school and I graduated, and I kind of always wanted to gravitate a little bit toward tax in that area. I knew I never wanted to go to court. And the first job I got was in the was with the IRS in the estate tax division. I used to joke that I used to steal money from rich widows and orphans.
Oh, got it.
But what it did end up doing is give me a great background, because not only did I learn a lot about tax and the estate tax regime and how that worked, but you got to see you review some of the best planning in the DC Baltimore area and some of the worst planning. So I kind of learned, what to do and
Yeah.
what to avoid at the same time. So that was very helpful.
Oh, and just curious, where did you go to school?
I went to University of Maryland for undergraduate school, and I went to Duke for law school.
And who inspired you to get into this career, would you say? Because
Uh,
you work in the IRS, I read right earlier.
right, that's where I started my career, and that was
Yes.
more just timing. Got the job, started work. I knew I wanted to do taxes, so I kind of in that area gravitated that way. And I guess as far as being a lawyer, it was sort of, my parents always encouraged myself and my sisters to do as well as we could in school. And then, when I looking for a career, I wanted to look for something that, was challenging, I guess, intellectually, or what, that kind of thing.
Amazing. Well, we're ecstatic that you're here and excited we're going to talk about, the legal guidance that you're offering to really help people out there protect their assets is what it is. And let me just ask, are you only able to work in law in Maryland, or are you able to work out of state?
So I'm only admitted in Maryland, so I can only do planning in Maryland. So if somebody needed, lawyer in Georgia or Texas, they would need to find somebody in that area. And the other thing is with that is that this area of law, there's a lot of principles that go across the country, but it's also kind of specific to this. There's a lot of state specific
Yeah,
things. So you're better served, contacting somebody in that particular area, you
right.
know. So that's more helpful to reach out to somebody locally.
All right, well, let's start with the basics because this is going to be chock full of information for people out there. Not everybody even knows what estate planning even is, so let's get to it and break it down if you don't mind.
Sure. So the basics of estate planning are basically you're doing a couple of things. You're looking at transferring your wealth to the next generation. So your children,
Okay.
grandchildren, friends, whoever that is. But then you're also looking at the other aspect of it is looking at things while you're alive, setting up
Wow.
mechanisms so that if you lose capacity, somebody can step in and make financial decisions or medical decisions for you. So you're doing twofold. You're taking care of unfortunate things during your lifetime and then your assets at death. Most people think of a will, that's part of estate planning, but it's broader than that.
Got it. Well, let me ask you, when it comes to these types of services, at what age should we really be starting to think about this? Because here, I'm 47, I have two little kids. I've done nothing. I mean, should we be starting earlier than later? I'm assuming I own a home with a mortgage, but still, I haven't even thought about this yet. So you're
Yeah, I think
teaching
it's
me a
good to
lot today
start because
too.
when you have kids, if you have little kids,
Yes.
then you want to make sure, well, part of what you're doing in a will is saying these are the people I want to raise my children if I am not around. So you're getting to pick the guardian, somebody who will take care of your kids. And if you're married and the spouse survives, it would gravitate to the spouse naturally. But some people aren't married, or they, are not comfortable with that. Or if you both die, you want to say, okay, this is who I want my kids to go with. And,
Yeah.
sometimes I have parents, they say, I just can't figure out who I trust with my kids or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is what I would tell you, Jill, is I get it. Hard decision. I don't have children of my own, but I can understand that that'd be a difficult decision. But what I could also tell you in the same breath is, while it's difficult, the person you choose, who may not be perfect, is probably going to be better than the person that the judge chooses if you haven't selected this person in your will. You have this ability to say, hey, my sister's good, or my brother's better, or my friend, you're able to select that person. So you have some, you have the input. You're not going to have input from beyond the grave. And then the second part is, when you have little children in Maryland, and I'm pretty sure this is, broad across the board, is
Okay.
we don't let little kids get a lot of money in their own hands. And
No.
the definition of a lot of money is over $5,000.
Okay.
And if you don't have anything put in your will, you're subject in Maryland to a guardianship, which is extremely cumbersome
Okay.
and annoying and regulated by the court. And so what's happening is the money's supervised by the court. And so if your guardian, the person managing the money for your kids, wants to spend money on something that you as a parent would have said, of course I would do this: tutors, computers, private education, travel, you name it, they have to petition the court to have access to the money. Now, if it's education related or medical, the court's going to say yes, but you still have to do that. And you have to every year account for the money. What was there? How was it spent? And then the worst thing is, your kids get the money at 18, regardless if they are ready to have the money.
Oh.
So they could be the smartest, most sophisticated 18-year-old in the country
Mm-hmm.
or not, and they're still getting the
Yep.
money. And I would remind you that your 18-year-old children have 18-year-old friends. So, even if they are the smartest, wisest human on earth, they're going to get peer pressure.
Yeah.
And what I always say to my clients flippantly is, well, I'm pretty sure if your kids get money at 18, there's going to be a lot of keg parties at the beach that summer. And
Yep.
I've seen it happen where the kids have gotten substantial money at 18 and there's no money at 19.
Wow. Well,
So,
what specifically should we have in a will too as well? And
so one
when?
of the things, I'm sorry to cut you off, is
No,
you
go
can
ahead.
have like a trust. It's called a testamentary trust. It's set up when you die, but you set up the terms and conditions in your will. And you can say, look, if my kids are younger than 30, for instance, I'm going to have the money kept in trust. And then you can spin it out like I spin it for my clients, where it comes out in tiers or steps. So until your children are 21, you can say the trustee, the person managing the money, has total control over everything. And then you can say, okay, 21, we're going to give them all of the income. So say there's $1 million in the trust, earns 5%, child gets 50,000 to do what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Spend it on a house, spend it on money, gamble it away, whatever. And then you can say the principal, that million, comes out half at 25 and half at 30, or half at, I think my brother-in-law once told me, like, I'm going to have the kids get it at 30 and 35 because I want them to learn how to work. So you're able to, pick ages that you think the kids would be ready to get the largest amount of money. And then, Joe, what I tell clients all the time, if your kids have not learned by 30 or 35 or whatever age you pick, I'm going to just tell you, you probably failed as a parent. So, at some point, but at least it's allowing you to get these kids over a certain age where you hope that they are, older, smarter, wiser, whatever goes into that equation.
I have one of those in my family. I have a brother. He's that guy. I'm 47 and he's 49, but yeah, never got it, still doesn't. And yeah. All right, it
Yeah,
happens. So let's
yeah,
talk to the people listening today. This is so important to have and to discuss and to be doing. And even at a young age, you should have a will. Let me just ask
right.
you though, what happens if you don't have a will and you pass away? Like
So
what?
go ahead. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
So
No,
what?
like I just find everyone always talks about this and like how devastating it is and stuff happens with money. Could you just break that down for me? I'm
So,
curious because a lot
sure.
of
So
people out
what?
there might not have that yet, and we need to get them
Exactly.
one.
Exactly. So what happens is you're deemed to die intestate without a will. And you then the division of your assets and who's going to manage these assets is left up to the laws in your state. So
Mm-hmm.
tell clients a lot, if you don't have a will, the state of Maryland has a will for you.
Got it.
So, and they're going to drive how money and property is going to go to children, grandchildren, your spouse, friend, not friends, but cousins or aunts and
Yeah.
uncles. And under Maryland law and probably New York law or Connecticut law or whatever, they don't, everybody's treated the same. They don't say, hey, I know Jill hated her sister Tammy or whatever, or Tammy was always bad to mom. She never visited. She didn't like buy her groceries. Whatever goes in that equation, I don't care. If you don't have a will, Tammy gets her chunk just like everybody else.
Yeah.
So that's where your will allows you to, say, hey, I don't want Tammy to get some money or whatever unfortunate or fortunate things. So you're able to control that. And like this is always something a trivial tidbit, but that in Maryland, if you go through the list and it's children, grandchildren, cousins, you keep going through the list, the very bottom of that list is
Okay.
the Board of Education in the county you are living in. So if you
Hmm.
don't have family, it will go to the Board of Education
Okay.
in whatever county that happens to be. My mother was a public school teacher. I don't mind that it goes there, but I have clients that sent their kids to private school, and they're a little always when I tell them that they're a little taken aback. Like, you mean I never put my kids in public school, and I'm benefiting them. So it's your opportunity to write against or write around that too.
Wow. Well, also, I was, reading your notes, of course, getting to know you more, and let's talk a little bit about the revocable trust. What is that exactly, and do we need them?
So a revocable or revocable trust is kind of a will substitute. So
Okay, see, I wasn't even sure how to pronounce it. It's revocable, or is it? Say it one more time.
it could be either
Revoke.
revocable or revocable.
Okay,
It's
good, good, good,
the
good. I didn't
tomato
mess up too bad.
tomato potato thing.
Got it.
But yeah, so it's essentially like a will substitute. So what you can do is if you create this revocable or revocable trust, is it the second part of the trust is like very much like your will. You're saying this is where I want my money and property to go when I die. I want it to go to my
Yeah,
kids or grandchildren or whatever. But then the first part of the trust, it sets up a mechanism to handle your incapacity.
yeah,
So you're able to say, hey, if I lose my marbles, for lack of a better way to put it, then somebody else can step in, my trustee. So it could be your husband, wife, friend, whatever. So it,
hmm,
it kind of merges two areas together. And this gets a lot of what you hear in the popular media is assets in a trust avoid probate.
yeah,
You'll hear that. Listen to the radio today, somebody will scream about that. Problem is, or the thing is, I don't think, at least in Maryland, probate is that bad. Like, I don't tell people to do a trust to avoid probate because a lot of the stories we hear about probate are driven by people fighting. Siblings, children are fighting after mom and dad dies or whatever that looks like. And, I tell my clients a lot, look, if your kids are going to fight, I don't care whether we did a trust or a will, it's going to be bad. And it's just which document are we fighting around or under? And that's rarely why I do it, but I do it a lot for, I think that the advantages of incapacity, because I believe it's the best document to handle incapacity, are undersold by the media, and also most important because the thing is probate ends. A lot of it ends within a year. Your incapacity starts from the day the court determines that you don't have capacity or doctor says that till you die.
yeah.
That could be a year, it could be 10 years. And so if you don't have anything set up properly, you're dealing with probate types of things through that entire arc of incapacity. So I think that's why you want to button that part down.
Got it. Interesting. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. And then also, I mean, we still have plenty more time, but I just want to make sure everyone is aware we are talking to Julie Schejbal, and again, she's an estate attorney. law offices of Julia Schejbal. She's in Dunkirk, Maryland, and she's talking today about her full service estate planning law firm and how she's helping people with the trust, wills, uh, also planning for those, financially that are well off, right? They need,
Exactly.
extra help. Like I could only imagine.
Right.
And what do you love most about your job?
So I think the cool thing is to two things is you get to meet different people and you really are helping them. Most people are coming to you to say they need to do a will or whatever, and it's positive. They're thinking about their children or their grandchildren or nieces and nephews, whatever. So it's pretty positive in that respect. And there are times people come and you're hearing a little bit about their backstory. So
Yeah.
you can kind of say, hey, like finding out about their life, finding about how they made money. And sometimes you're going, oh, I didn't even know you could make money doing that or whatever. So you get to find out a lot about people, and generally it's more positive, as opposed to if you've ever met. I mean, I've known lots of attorneys who've done like divorce work, and my sense is everybody who comes to you then is in a bad mood because
Got
they're
it.
getting divorced or take any kind of litigation, right? Something bad's happened. In this case, it's generally, at least initially, pretty positive.
Got it. Well, thank you for that. And also, you mentioned, did you want to break down a little more about the documentation that you need to do this with estate planning? Which we have. What if we don't have the proper stuff? How do we find this stuff?
So I think the thing I talk to everybody about is there's either the big three or the big four. And so the big three would be a will to dispose of your assets, a medical directive. And what that does is it sets up somebody, two parts or three parts actually in Maryland. So the first part, you're going to set up somebody or not designate someone to make your medical decisions if you're unable to do so. So you're in a coma. You're setting up somebody to make these decisions, whether it's, people think about pulling the plug, and that's one aspect of the document. But it can also be, look, mom has dementia. She falls out of bed, breaks her ankle. That
Yeah.
isn't a life ending event, but somebody's got to talk to the doc about surgery and PT and meds and whatever goes into that equation. And then third part, you can make decisions about your body after death, like organ donation or donating your body to science. That's in Maryland. And then the other document I recommend, part of the big three, is a power of attorney. And what the power of attorney does is it handles financial power of attorney handles your money. So you're setting somebody up to pay your bills. If you have investment decisions, make those decisions if you can't do so. So you're setting it up, file taxes, somebody to, handle your finances. And then the other aspect is the big four. And so that's the power of attorney, medical directive, will, and then doing a revocable trust if
Yeah.
that makes sense. And that's one of the things I try to pride myself on not over planning for clients. So some people will come in and say, Julie, I absolutely need a trust. And she'll sit down and talk to you, and I might say, I can do a trust for you, but based on what you
Yeah.
have, I don't think you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. You're going to pay me extra money, and it's really not going to make a lot of sense. Or sometimes people come in and I'll say, Jill, I think a trust would work great. And you say, I don't want to spend that money, or I'm against that, or whatever it looks like, and we don't do a trust. So it's really trying to find the middle ground for everybody.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. All right. And we still have just a few minutes left. How did you kind of want to sum up for today why, people should be reaching out and working with someone like yourself as an attorney to get this stuff done?
Well, I think it's important because, there's a lot of those like will writing programs out there, and people
Yeah.
sometimes will do it and they'll try to save a buck. And to be honest, you as the client will rarely know if I did a good job or not because you're
Yeah.
either dead or you've lost capacity. So really the best evaluators of my work are your children or people stepping in for you.
Yeah.
Um, so there is this motivation or enticement to not pay a lawyer, use the will writer. The problem is, it's only as good as your input. So if you mess the input up or you're not sure what you're doing, you've created a whole a mess that somebody else is going to have to untangle when you die. And probably the money you save now,
Yep.
you're going to pay me or somebody else later to untangle this stuff.
So true. It
You
really
know,
is. All right.
so pay a professional. It's just like going to a doctor. Maybe go on WebMD, find some stuff out, but you eventually go to your doctor, right?
It's so true. Well, thank you so much.
You're
So
welcome.
I appreciate your time here, all the knowledge that you've given me, let alone our community out here who's listened. So thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a great day.
Now you got to tell us how we can contact you,
Oh,
please.
I'm sorry. So
That's
you can reach
okay.
me. It's a big point. You can reach me on my website, which is www.jasesstatelaw, all one word, .com, or you can email me at julie@jasstatelaw.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Pleasure to have you here and looking forward
It's
to the
great.
next time we get to connect, okay?
Thank you. Have a fabulous
Thanks
day.
again. You too. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.